We are here for this brief instant. All the plants, the animals, the clouds are here sharing that time, but all at different rates. To the mountains, we're just like that. We're there and gone. And even to this tree, we're kind of here and gone. If we could learn to think a little bit more like a tree, we might pay more attention to how we're treating everything.
I've known Bill Lesch for 30 years. He loves the Sonoran Desert, and I find that he has a real fascination for the weather here as well, and the energy in the weather. And many bodies of work show that.
Coming from the Midwest, I had a lot of trouble learning to be in the desert, and it took me quite a while to come to a place where it felt like home to me. Just a lot of walks, looking at things, mostly, just paying attention.
And always presenting the desert in images in ways that nobody had done. The kind of science that he practices in terms of observation is just inspiring.
I had this background in sciences, and I actually had no background in art. Digital didn't exist at that point, so this was totally film-based photography. I loved the whole chemistry aspect of it. I mean, to me, it was like a combination of science and art. I always wanted to push the edges of what I could do with either developers or filters.
"32 years ago, I saw one of his images on a poster called Blue Saguaro in Jupiter. It stopped me in my tracks. I couldn't figure out what I was looking at. For years, I kind of followed his work. I started working at Tohono Chul 10 years ago. He submitted his work for one of our exhibitions, and we've been working together ever since.
I followed him over the years as he would change what he was doing. Things where he shot from up in the air, show what the environmental damage of something was. He inspires me. I've stolen from him.
I remember one time watching like a tree, just a really windy day, and it was just blowing all over the place, and I was like, God, I wonder if I could photograph that and somehow get that feeling of that thing dancing. I slowed the film down to where I could take a 1 or 2 second exposure of that. I started shooting clouds that way.
Bill sees life in a different way than we do. He's there with his hands and like, oh, I see this, I see that, but we don't know it until we see it on paper.
In 2008, I had an accident in the surf off Santa Cruz. It made me realize how thin that line is between living and not living. I came this close to dying. I realized if you've got things that you wanted to do, you better damn well do them, because you could go anytime. I had in mind for a photograph. I went out on the other side of Gates Pass, took that photograph 5 different times a day, plus I went out at night with a light, basically paint with the times a day. We have tended to think of photographs as being like that, and I wanted to stretch out that time. I wanted to talk about what happens before the photograph, after the photograph. You know, the time frame for that landscape is a lot longer than that little 60th of a second.
One of the great things that he found with digital technology was his painting that he also loved to do could come back into play and to be something that he could, in a sense, customize. And so he keeps evolving his creative practice, and there's always something new to explore with Bill, and that in turn gives us a chance to see the desert in yet another way.
Photograph of the cave in the Grand Canyon. That's a great example of where digital can do things that you weren't able to do with film. When I was setting it up, I was kind of like, oh my God, look at all those footprints. What could I do about those? That's 30 years worth of footprints in there. People going through there leaving little bits of their spirit. I saw afterwards that people had moved, so I decided after the fact that I wanted to ghost the people in the Grand Canyon. We also inhabit it with the ghosts of the people who were there before.
Painting kind of steals time, it kind of stops time, where somehow with the photography, because of the layers that he's doing, I think, you get this depth to them and this multiple movement of things going this way and that way and at different levels that you're there. And I don't know many artists that can do that.
He's not really taking a photograph, he's making an image. A lot of these things kind of talk about time and how time is revealed slowly. And so these things take, a day to make, setting up his camera in various locations and photographing the same scene over and over and over and then merging them together.
Timepiece photographs. The sun comes up every day, it goes across the sky. The moon's coming up, the clouds are going over. There's an endless rhythm there. We just perceive that rhythm in such a limited way because of how long our lives are. Now it's gotten even worse. We have to be productive every second. How often do we go out and see? Time isn't our phones. Time is what's going on out there in this endless cycle.
He captures something that I think in poetry they call it the eternal present. It's that thing, but it's happening right now, but it seems like it's happening like this all the time. You just didn't know it, and it's going to keep happening exactly like this.
Hi, I'm Tom McNamara, host of Arizona Illustrated. Thanks so much for watching this story from our show. And for more local stories from Arizona Illustrated, just click right here.